This morning, my son's private school slid me a notarized consent with my signature and told me my husband, the man with a driver and a donor calendar, had already taken our 11-year-old to the airport. I'm his mother, and my husband's name opens doors, so the office stays calm while they slide the consent toward me. Notary stamp, and there's my signature, my slanted E, my married name, authorizing Stellan to travel with our son. This isn't kidnapping the way people imagine it. It's kidnapping with paperwork. So why today? What deadline is he racing? And who helped make this legal? Because once a plane leaves, a border doesn't care what I meant. Stellan won't answer. His itinerary says LAX, departing. If I call the police, my son becomes a case file. If I race to the airport, I'm chasing my own child on stolen consent.
Welcome to American Billionaire Tales.
My finger stops hovering. It lands, hard, on the private transport contact, not 911. The sedan smells like clean leather and last night's cologne. Outside the tinted window, LAX traffic crawls in orderly little knots, like the city thinks order is the same thing as safety. I keep my volume measured. Quiet voices travel farther in expensive places. I pull the consent from my lap and flatten it against my thigh. The notary stamp is still there. My slanted E. Crowhurst. My married name, signing away my right to say no. My wedding ring catches a thin line of sun, and I turn my hand so it doesn't. Then I call the school. They answer on the second ring, cheerful in the way people are when they believe the crisis belongs to someone else. Front office. I need the pickup log entry you showed me, I say. The one that says my son was released. A beat, paper rustling, a mouse click. A performance of helpfulness. Mrs. Crowhurst, it's you, Lily. I let the name sit there, not as an introduction, but as a correction. Read it back to me, exactly as it appears. Another pause. And then the administrator's voice turns careful, as if careful makes it kind. It shows authorized pickup. Confirmed. By whom? By the authorization on file, she says, and I can hear her leaning into policy like it's a railing. Your husband provided a notarized consent. I'm looking at it, I say. I keep my eyes on the signature line. I don't let my voice crack. Tell me what you logged, not what you assumed. She exhales, tiny, controlled. We verified the notary stamp. It's recorded. Recorded where? I ask. In your system, with a time, with a scan. There's a soft click, and I picture her tapping that iPad again, the same gentle fingertip you use on a screen when you don't want to admit it's a weapon. We have a scan, she says. Email it, I answer. We can't without my husband's permission. The words come out clean, cold, or without your courage. Silence. In the background, I hear a door close softly, private school architecture designed to keep panic from echoing. I can send you the standard release packet, she says, choosing a smaller truth. But anything with student records. I'm not asking for his grades. My thumb worries the ring until it stings. I'm asking for the document you used to remove my child from your campus. She doesn't answer that directly. Of course she doesn't. People in these worlds rarely say what they mean when they can say something compliant instead. I can have our records team follow up, she offers. Do it now, I tell her. And note this. I am not disputing that you followed procedure. I'm disputing that the procedure was honest. That's the first time her calm slips. Just slightly. Mrs. Eulalie, she corrects herself. Your husband picked him up personally. He left campus with your son. I stare at the consent again, and it hits me how clean this is. No shouting, no struggle, no dramatic scene for a bystander to film. Just a stamp, a signature, and a door opening. A bitter thought lands, perfectly timed. My husband can move money across continents with a phone call. Why wouldn't he be able to move a child the same way? My other phone buzzes with a message from the driver. ETA to the terminal. No apology. Just time. Send me whatever you can, I say. And if anyone calls you about this today, anyone, tell them you spoke to me. Tell them I asked. Tell them you refused. Mrs. Crowhurst. I look down at my ring again, then at the name printed on the consent. It's Eulalie. I repeat, softer now. And that's my son. I end the call before she can find a nicer way to refuse me. Then I forward the photo of the consent to myself, time-stamped, subject line blank. Proof doesn't need pretty words. It needs a trail. The sedan inches forward, and I realize the worst part isn't that Stellan took him. It's that the world is already acting like he had every right to. The airport feels less like a place than a funnel. Glass, arrows, and refusal. I step out at departures in the same outfit I left the school in. Tailored trousers, matte black blouse, structured black wool coat. Because I haven't had time to become anyone else. The LA sun hits the polished curbside and bounces back into my eyes like interrogation lighting. I keep the consent folded in my left hand, my phone in my right. The ring stays on. For now. Inside, the air turns refrigerated and smells like espresso and sanitizer. Screens glow everywhere. Arrows point. Announcements float overhead like instructions for people who still believe they're in control. I move fast, but not frantic. Frantic gets you noticed. Noticed gets you delayed. At the edge of a private lounge corridor, a concierge, roll only, looks up, takes in my coat, my posture, the kind of stillness money teaches. Her smile arrives first. Mrs. Crow? I don't let her finish. I open the consent just enough for the notary stamp to show, just enough for my signature to look like a key. My husband is traveling with my son, I say. I need to see them before they board. Her eyes drop to the stamp, then flick back up to my face. It's a quick calculation. What is her job? What is her risk? What is my husband's reach? I can't interrupt passengers, she says automatically. I tilt the paper so the signature line catches the light. Slanted E. Crowhurst. My own handwriting giving her permission to deny me. You already did, I tell her, voice level. When you decided a stamp mattered more than a mother. That lands. Not as guilt. Guilt is too emotional for this hallway, but as inconvenience. People don't like moral discomfort interrupting luxury. She lowers her voice. Do you have their flight details? I show her my phone. The itinerary preview with LAX and departing visible. Everything else cropped away. Stellan's missed calls stacked above it like a wall. I'm not asking you to make an announcement, I say. I'm asking you to let me walk down that corridor. She hesitates, and my mind flashes to the other option. Sirens, questions, uniforms, Cato's face photographed for a bulletin. The case file version of my child. Either I make this a public abduction, or I follow my own child out of the country on a signature I didn't mean. The line isn't a speech in my head, it's a measurement. 2 losses, different shapes. The concierge nods once, small. This way. We pass through a door that opens too easily. That's what money does. It turns locked things into, of course. On the other side, the corridor is quieter, carpeted, insulated from the real airport's chaos. People sit with luggage that looks expensive enough to deserve its own seat. A man in a suit laughs softly at something on his phone. Nobody looks worried. Nobody looks like they're chasing their child. The concierge stops, a few paces short of a corner. She doesn't point. She doesn't need to. There, she murmurs. And for the first time since the school counter, I feel the full weight of what I chose by not calling police. I'm close, but I'm alone in a hallway designed to keep problems private. Somewhere ahead, the boarding call echoes, polite, inevitable. My throat tightens once, and I swallow it down. Because if Stellan is already this deep inside the machine is going to treat him as the authorized parent, and me as the interruption. I turn the corner and see them. Stellan stands the way he always stands. 44, black, deep brown skin, close-cut hairline immaculate, charcoal suit sitting perfectly on a body that looks built for boardrooms and quiet threats. His face is composed, eyes dark and steady, mouth set in a neutral line that never begs. His watch catches the corridor light as his wrist shifts, subtle, automatic, checking time without looking desperate. And beside him is Cato, 11, black, medium brown skin, short, neat coils. Backpack strap wrapped around his small hand like it's the only thing holding him upright. He isn't crying. He isn't acting out. He looks tired in a way children shouldn't have to look tired. Gray at the edges. Quiet dignity wearing down the softness of his face. My feet take me toward him before I've decided to. Cato, I say. Just his name, like a hand reaching out. His eyes lift, warm brown, alert. There's relief there, quick and contained, like he's trying to be brave for me. Stellan steps a half pace, not blocking me completely, just placing himself in the exact space where a reunion would become a confrontation. Not here, he says. 2 words. Calm enough to sound reasonable. Controlling enough to be a threat. I hold up the consent. The notary stamp is a dark bruise on white paper. My signature is still my signature. You used my name, I say. My voice doesn't rise. It drops. You used my hand. His gaze flicks to the page like it's a tool he recognizes. I used what we had. What we had? My thumb presses the ring's indent, hard enough to leave a mark. The ring stays on. The marriage still claims space on my body, even while he erases my voice. So tell me, why today? What deadline is this? And who helped you make the school obey? His face doesn't change much. That's his gift, or his illness. He gives me one extra calm sentence, the way he always does when he wants control back. We don't have time for this conversation in public. Public. He says it like a warning. I look past him, just enough to see Cato's posture, the way he leans into stillness like he's conserving himself, the way his fingers tighten on the backpack strap. A gate agent, roll only, Cole's boarding groups down the hall. Nobody looks at us. Privacy is part of what people pay for here. Mom, Cato's voice is small, controlled, like he learned control from us. I step closer, and Stellan shifts again, still calm, still managing distance. If you stop me here, he says, and for the first time his voice carries something underneath the polish, something sharp with fear. You'll regret it for the rest of your life. It lands in my chest, not as drama, Stellan doesn't do drama, but as an equation I don't want to solve. I can see security at the corridor mouth. I can raise my hand. I can say the word kidnapping out loud and let the airport become a stage. I can let strangers take Cato from Stellan and from me and place him inside procedure. Or I can stay close. Bored. Keep my son within arm's reach. Stellan's phone lights up in his hand for half a second, an email preview. I catch 2 words before his thumb kills the screen. Intake window. My stomach drops, heavy, immediate. That's the first real proof this is aimed at something beyond a marriage fight, beyond a control issue, beyond LAX. I look at Cato again. He's watching my face, reading me, trying not to be the reason we fall apart in public. So I make my choice. I lower my hand. I fold the consent until the signature disappears. I step in close enough that Cato can feel me there. I'm coming, I tell him quietly. Not permission, not surrender. Strategy. Stellan doesn't thank me. He just turns, already moving, already counting minutes, like minutes are love. And I follow them onto the plane, entering his plan on, a document that still feels stolen. Geneva doesn't greet you like a city. It checks you in. By the time we reach the hospital, my black wool coat still smells faintly of airplane air and the private panic I refused to show. My hair is still pulled into a sleek low bun with clean edges because control is the one thing I can keep on my own body. Stellan is in the same charcoal suit he wore at LAX. Crease sharp, watch understated, expression calibrated for rooms where people don't say the word fear out loud. Cato leans into his backpack strap as we walk. 11 years old, medium brown skin, short, neat coils, and that quiet fatigue again. His small shoulders rounded like he's conserving pieces of himself. He doesn't complain. That's what breaks me first. Children complain when they feel safe. At the entrance, a glass door opens only after an ID scan. Then another. Then a sink station with a printed diagram showing hands being washed like a ritual. A sign in French and English tells us to mask before we enter. Nobody raises their voice. Nobody has to. Every sign is polite, and every door is locked until you comply. A nurse appears, roll only, intake coordinator. Scrubs, clipped badge, hair tied back. Eyes kind, but unnegotiable. She holds a tablet as if it's part of her skeleton. Passports, she says, and the consent. Stellan hands everything over in one smooth motion. Passport, itinerary printout, the notarized consent folded to the exact right page. It's the way he moves in boardrooms. Prepared, efficient, already 3 steps ahead. I watch my signature travel from his hand to hers. The coordinator's eyes flick to the notary stamp, then to my surname, Crowhurst, then back to Stellan. The paper decides for us. And you are, she asks me. For half a second, the old rage returns. Hot. Useless. The wife, The mother. The one who carried him and almost didn't get to carry again. But in this building, identity is permission. Eulalie, I say,
and I keep my voice quiet enough to be respected.
His mother. She nods like she's acknowledging a fact, not honoring it. Then she prints a temporary badge and loops it onto a thin plastic lanyard. My name appears in black letters beside a barcode. It feels like being reduced on purpose. Cato gets a wristband. The nurse's hands are gentle, practiced. The band clicks shut on his small wrist, and he looks away as if looking directly at it would make it more real. We're guided through a corridor of sealed doors, airlocks, really, until we reach a small intake room with a sink, a chair, and the kind of bright overhead lighting that makes everyone look tired. A doctor arrives, roll-only attending. White coat, salt and pepper hair, eyes trained to hold facts without flinching. He speaks plainly. No poetry, no softening. Your son's blood cancer has relapsed, he says. And the word relapsed lands like a second fall. Without treatment, we're talking months, not years. Months. My throat tightens once, then I force it open. I stare at the corner of the consent peeking from Stellan's folder. My slanted E, my married name. My signature, authorizing decisions I wasn't allowed to make with my own mouth. Stellan's calm doesn't crack, but it becomes more intense, like he's tightening a bolt. We're here for the intake window. The doctor nods, and for the first time I hear the real structure. Not treatment, not care, but access. The nurse turns her tablet towards Stellan. An email thread is visible. Clinic header, dates, bolded line. I lean in and read it myself because I don't trust anyone else's summary. Intake window, 1400 to 1600. Today. 2 hours to be seen, to be cleared, to be accepted. My stomach drops. Not into drama, into arithmetic. Stellan watches me see it. His eyes meet mine for a fraction, and I finally understand the shape of his love. Logistics, dressed up as mercy. Nothing is promised, the doctor adds. And he doesn't sound cruel, he sounds honest. Response rates are low. Some children respond, some don't. Coin flip, my mind supplies, though nobody says it that bluntly. I reach for Cato's shoulder. He's warm through the fabric of his sweater. He doesn't lean away. He doesn't lean in. He just stays. Brave, tired, present. And Stellan, my husband, the billionaire whose name opens doors, stands beside us with paperwork that makes the doors obey. What I thought was a marriage crime is suddenly sitting inside a medical clock. And the clock doesn't care what I meant, either. They move us into a consultation room that's almost kind. Soft chair, a box of tissues nobody touches, a window showing gray sky and the faint blur of traffic below. Cato sits with his legs swinging slightly above the floor. He keeps his backpack on, like if he takes it off, he'll become a patient instead of a kid. The wristband catches the light each time he shifts. Stellan stands, of course. He doesn't sit unless he's staying. His suit jacket is still buttoned. His watch glints when he folds his hands. I finally take my coat off. Underneath, my matte black blouse is smooth, unwrinkled. Armor that survived a flight. My wedding ring is still on, and my thumb worries the edge of it until it stings. The doctor speaks without drama. Your son is immunocompromised, he says. Travel carries risk. Exposure carries risk. Treatment carries risk. I nod once, as if nodding makes me competent enough to absorb it. What does the treatment do? I ask. He doesn't promise. He doesn't soften. He says, response, percentage, some children, some don't. The language is careful the way legal language is, designed to be true even when it hurts. Stelling cuts in. We understand the odds. Of course he does. He lives in odds. He invests in them. He builds empires on them. I look at Cato. He's watching the doctor's mouth, not the words. Like he's trying to measure danger by tone. What does it feel like? I ask instead. For him. The doctor's gaze shifts to Cato, and his voice lowers, respectful. It can be hard, he says. It can be painful. Some children tolerate it. Some don't. That's the line that makes my stomach turn. Not fear, recognition. The possibility that saving him could break him in a different direction. What if my voice is steadier than my body? What if the attempt kills him faster than the illness? The doctor doesn't flinch. He nods once, slow. That is a possibility, he says. And the honesty is its own violence. Stellan's jaw tightens, just once. Then the calm returns. Money didn't buy certainty, just a chance to be told, maybe. I hate that the sentence is true. I hate that it's the best sentence we can afford. I lean forward and ask the question I've been swallowing since the badge printer. If we miss the intake window, what happens? The doctor's answer is immediate. That's how I know it's happened before. Then you lose the slot, he says. Another child takes it. We can put him on the wait list, but the wait can be long. Another child, another family, another name on the line where mine sits now. My hands tighten in my lap. I force them to loosen because tight hands look like panic. Stellan pulls out his phone and scrolls. Email, attachments, confirmations. Like proof can be stacked high enough to become safety. He turns the screen toward the nurse when she asks. He doesn't look at me while he does it. I do something I didn't do in Los Angeles. I take my own phone and open a notes app. I write down the intake window times. I write down the doctor's name as attending without spelling it out like a fan. I write down the line about losing the slot. The system will believe the cleanest record, not the loudest grief. The nurse watches me for a moment, just long enough that I know she understands what I'm doing. She doesn't stop me. She doesn't encourage me. She just continues, efficient, clipped, human behind the rules. Cato shifts in his chair, the backpack strap squeaking softly as he adjusts it. I reach for his hand, and he gives it to me without making it a moment. Stellan notices, then looks away, like tenderness is a luxury he can't afford right now. And that's when the moral knot tightens. If this is only maybe, why did he have to steal my yes to get here? They place us in a hospital-adjacent suite that's almost obscene in its comfort. Floor-to-ceiling windows, pale stone floors, a low modern sofa the color of bone. A small dining table with a bowl of fruit nobody touches. It looks like wealth trying to disguise itself as mercy. On the marble coffee table sits the consent, creased and softened at the corners from too many hands. My signature survives every fold. Cato curls into the corner of the sofa with a thin blanket around his shoulders, hoodie pulled up, wristband visible. He holds a small puzzle booklet the nurse gave him, staring at it like concentration is a kind of bravery. Stellan loosens his tie and kneels in front of him. Without a word, he takes Cato's sneaker and tightens the laces with careful fingers. The billionaire who can move capital like breath is tying a child's shoe like it's the only thing that makes sense in the room. Cato lets him. That's the part that shifts something in me. Not forgiveness, just the reminder that Stellan is his father before he is my husband. Stellan looks up. His eyes are tired in a way his suit can't hide. For 1 second, his calm isn't a tactic. It's a dam. Then Cato's attention drifts back to his puzzle, and Stellan stands again, back inside the suit. The door closes with a soft click. I pick up the consent and place it flat on the marble table. Not dramatic, surgical. I smooth the page with my palm until the notary stamp faces up. My name is on this, I say. Stellan's gaze drops to the paper. He doesn't look ashamed. He looks committed. I know, he answers. Then say it, I tell him. Say what you did. He exhales through his nose, slow, controlled. I got him here. That's not an answer. A muscle jumps at his cheek, then goes still. I didn't tell you because you would have slowed it down. There it is. Not a mistake. A strategy. My thumb presses my knuckle hard enough to sting. The wedding ring feels suddenly loud against my skin. You thought I'd slow down my child's chance to live? I ask. And my voice stays quiet, because quiet is the only way I don't break. I thought you'd insist on doing it the right way, he says. And the right way takes time we don't have. I look at the suite, at the stone, the view, the polished fixtures, at how money can make a hospital feel like a hotel. Then I look at Cato's wristband. We had time to prepare this, I say, tapping the consent with one finger. You had time to make the school obey. You had time to get a notary stamp on a document with my signature. You had time for everything except telling me the truth. His eyes don't dart away. He holds my gaze. I had time to plan, he says. Not time to convince you. A bitter thought lands. Of course he planned. Billionaires don't do emergencies. They do contingency. Cato shifts on the sofa, the blanket slipping. He's listening without trying to. Children always do. I lower my voice further. How long have you known? Stellan's glance flicks toward Cato, protective, quick. Then back to me. Long enough. Not a number, not a date. A controlled vagueness designed to end the conversation. I hate him for that restraint. I envy it too. And then, without warning, my mind flashes to a week ago. The private school folder with the embossed crest on our kitchen island. The cheap pen chained to the clipboard. My hand signing where a line was waiting. Routine. Harmless. A signature given without thought because my life is built on 1,000 small signatures. Back in the suite, my hand trembles once over the paper. I flatten it again. Tell me you didn't forge it, I say. I didn't. He answers, immediate. Then how, I ask, did you get it? His mouth tightens, and for the first time, he looks like a man choosing how much truth he can afford. It was handled, he says. By who? He doesn't answer that. He won't hand me a name I can use like a weapon. I nod once, slow. So you didn't bring me here as a partner, I say. You brought me because you needed the person whose signature the system respects. His eyes hardened. I brought you because he needs his mother. And you stole his mother's consent to do it, I answer. Cato looks up from his puzzle. His eyes move between our faces, careful, like he's trying to memorize the safest version of us. I swallow the rest of my anger, not for Stellan, for Cato. Because no matter what I decide about my marriage, my child is still in the room. And the clock is still ticking. The morning of the intake window, my badge feels heavier than it should. It hangs on its lanyard against my chest, Eulalie Crowhurst, in black letters. And every time it taps my blouse, it reminds me that even my name is being used as access. Cato is quieter today. Hoodie up, wristband still there. He eats 2 bites of toast in the suite and pushes the plate away with a small, apologetic shrug, like his body is inconveniencing us on purpose. Stellan checks his watch, then checks it again, pretending he didn't. We move fast through the hospital corridors. Sealed doors, sanitizer stations, masked faces. It's all friction. Every safety measure is necessary and still feels like an enemy when time is thin. At the intake desk, the coordinator, role-only nurse, meets us with a tablet and a stack of forms in a plastic tray. Before we proceed, she says, we need signatures. Stellan steps forward immediately, already reaching. Habit. I step in front of him. The nurse's eyes flick between us. Not curious, just practical. Legal guardianship and consent. She clarifies, as if she's labeling bins. We need a parent signature. Stellan's gaze pins me. Calm pressure. He holds out a pen. It's an ordinary pen. Cheap plastic. The kind you steal without thinking. And yet my hand hesitates like it's hovering over a weapon. Because this time I understand exactly what my signature does. I take the pen anyway. Let me read it, I say. Stellan's nostrils flare once. Eulalie. I don't look at him. I look at the page. My eyes move line by line, the way I should have moved them when a private school packet sat on our kitchen island. The nurse waits. The hall behind us continues its quiet flow of other people's crises. One clause jumps out. Authorization for procedures, disclosure, travel. Necessary. Real. Not a trick this time. I sign. My slanted E, my surname, my hand, my choice. And then I slide the paper back without softness. I signed for him, I say low. Not for you. Stellan's jaw tightens. The calm strains at the edges. He doesn't argue with the nurse present. He just takes the next form and moves to the next station, as if motion can erase what I said. The coordinator checks her tablet and then checks the wall clock. Her mouth tightens, not judgment, logistics. We have limited time for intake, she says. Labs, clearance, evaluation. The window is strict. Strict. That word belongs to schools and courts. It shouldn't be to a child fighting to live. We aren't here for comfort. We're here for permission. Brief, conditional, revocable. I glance at Stellan. He's scanning the corridor, calculating minutes, smoothing his tie like control can be pressed back into place. And I feel it. The thing that makes me cold. He didn't bring me to Geneva so I could decide with him. He brought me because he needed my signature to keep the machine moving.
If speed saves your child, what do you call everything it crushes on the way? The nurse hands me a plastic card, temporary access for the unit, and gestures toward a set of doors that require a scan. This badge will get you through, she says. My badge, my barcode, my reduced identity. We move again, Cato between us, smaller than the corridor, his hand brushing mine once as we pass through the sealed doors. The scanner beeps, indifferent. At the last checkpoint, the coordinator pauses. Her eyes soften just slightly, the human part surfacing. If you miss today's intake window, she says, careful, you go back on the list. Back on, like a missed appointment, like a luxury reservation. Then she adds, almost under her breath, as if she hates saying it and says it anyway. Cancellations happen, sometimes for terrible reasons. The sentence hangs in the sterile air. Somewhere else in this building, or another family, will have their own papers slid across a counter. Another signature. Another mother trying not to shake. Stellan steps forward toward the intake doors. His hand reaches for Cato's shoulder. Protective, proprietary, both at once. And I follow, badge tapping my chest, pen ink drying on a form I actually meant. I'm entangled now, not in his marriage, but in the machine he built around our child. And the closer we get to saving Cato, the more I feel myself disappearing into the paperwork. The hospital gives you a way to ask for records, but it's not called asking. It's called verifying. In the intake corridor, the lighting is flat and cold enough to make every face look like it's telling the truth. My badge taps my blouse when I walk. Eulalie Crowhurst, barcode, temporary access. And I hate how quickly I've learned to wear it without thinking. Cato is with a coordinator down the hall for another check. Stellan is handling calls, which is his way of disappearing without leaving. For a few minutes, the machine loosens its grip just enough for me to move. I find the patient advocate, roll only, at a small desk with a computer and a printer that never stops being useful. I don't explain my marriage. I don't ask for sympathy. I ask for the only thing that matters in this building. Paper. I need the hospital's scanned copy of the consent package, I say. The one submitted for intake? The advocate's eyes flick to my badge, then to Cato's wristband number on the chart. A nod. A few clicks. A printer wakes up with a soft whir. 2 pages slide out, warm to the touch. Fresh evidence. I take them to an empty alcove by a window that shows gray sky and a smear of city. I lay the pages on a narrow ledge and smooth them with my palm the way I did on the marble table in the suite. Notary stamp, clean fonts, travel and medical language. My married name. But this time I look closer. At the edges, the margins, the spacing. There's something wrong with the alignment. A header that doesn't match the font beneath it. A faint line where a scan caught a shadow that doesn't belong. An attachment seam. Like 2 different documents were pressed into one. My throat tightens,
but my hands stay steady. It's the only control I have. I pull out my phone and open the thread from the school's front office. No names, no warmth, just policy and delay. I type one sentence, precise. Send
Me the scanned school packet page with my signature that you have on file. Then I add, I am Cato's mother. This is for medical verification. I hit send. A dry thought slides in, bitter. In wealthy worlds, medical verification is one of the few phrases that still outranks ego. Minutes later, an email arrives with a secure link. The school doesn't apologize. It complies. I open the PDF, and there it is, the page I remember without wanting to. Routine, acknowledgements, emergency contacts. A signature line at the bottom like a trap laid in daylight. My slanted E, Crowhurst. The handwriting matches because it's mine. I hold the phone beside the printed hospital scan, and the truth becomes visual instead of emotional. The consent package didn't need a forged signature. It needed my real one. Lifted from a harmless page and attached to a document I never saw. I didn't consent. I just signed. My stomach drops. The fear drains, and what's left is clear. This wasn't panic. It was practice. I traced the seam on the hospital printout with my fingertip, an invisible surgery line where two realities were stitched together. Did he plan this before he even told me our son was sick? I asked myself. The answer isn't on the page, but the planning is. Stellan didn't steal my ink. He stole my attention. I fold the hospital printouts carefully, creased evidence joining the already creased consent in my bag. And I feel something settle in my chest. The last soft part of maybe he had no choice, turning into something harder. This is what protocol looks like when it's weaponized by someone who can afford to practice it. And now I have proof that doesn't care whether he meant well. In the suite, everything is still expensive. The stone floors, the soft furniture, the fruit bowl performing health. The thermostat hasn't changed. The room has. Stellan is by the window, phone in hand, suit still perfect, tie slightly loosened like he's granting himself a fraction of humanity. His deep brown skin looks almost blue under the daylight and the hospital's sterile reflections. He checks his watch without meaning to. Then he stills his wrist as if he caught himself. Cato sits on the sofa in his hoodie, blanket around his shoulders, wristband visible. He's working on the puzzle booklet with careful concentration, but his eyes keep lifting, quietly monitoring the temperature of the room. I take the printed pages from my bag and set them on the marble coffee table. Not tossed, placed. The hospital scan on top, the school packet PDF print beneath it. Two realities aligned. My wedding ring clicks softly against the marble when my hand releases the papers. Stellan's gaze drops to the pages. He doesn't ask what they are. He knows what paper can do. He can read a balance sheet at a glance. He can read an accusation the same way. That's it, I say. My voice is controlled, almost flat. That's how you did it. He doesn't touch the pages. He doesn't need to. He sees the seam, the margins, the matching slanted E, my surname. For a moment, I expect apology. Something human. Something that acknowledges I exist as more than a signature. Instead, he gives me the only thing he's always given when time is tight. Justification. I got him here, he says. That's what matters.
Don't, I answer. One word. A stop sign. His eyes lift to mine. Steady, dark brown, slightly hooded, unreadable. Every hour matters, he says. Every hour you argued at the school, every hour you wanted to read forms, those hours come out of him. He nods toward Cato without looking at him,
Like naming the child is enough to win the argument. I look at my son. He's pretending to focus on the puzzle, but his fingers have stopped moving. Backpack strap in his hand again, an old habit that followed him across an ocean. I didn't argue at the school, I say. I was blocked at the counter while your paperwork made everyone obedient. Stellan's jaw tightens once. And you still chose to fight me in the airport. I lean forward, palms on my knees, and I speak softly. Not gently because I refuse to let the building hear my pain. You turned marriage into procedure, I say. You turned motherhood into an obstacle. His face doesn't soften. It hardens, as if softness is a luxury he can't risk. I turned hesitation into movement, he says. I turned, we should talk about it, into, we're already there. He says it the way some men say prayers, without hearing themselves. I pick up the top page and tap the seam with a finger. You didn't steal my signature, I say. You stole my attention. You stole my ability to choose. Stellan finally steps closer and looks down at the pages like a man inspecting a tool he's already used. I would do it again, he says. He says it calmly. That's the brutality. No heat, no regret. Just doctrine. My throat tightens. I swallow once. My thumb presses into the ring's indent. The ring feels like a lie I'm still wearing. If the person you love is willing to erase you to save what you share, what are you to them? Partner or delay? Cato's pencil slips from his fingers and rolls onto the stone floor. The small sound is loud in a room built for quiet. Stellan's attention snaps to him. Father first, always. He crosses the space, picks up the pencil, and places it back in Cato's hand with a gentleness that makes me hate him more. Not because he's cruel, because he's capable. Cato looks up at both of us, 11 years old and already learning that adults can be right and wrong at the same time. Are we okay? He asks softly. The question isn't about marriage. It's about whether his world is still stable enough to stand on. I force my face into something steady. We're here with you, I say. Stellan's voice is low. We're getting you help, he tells Cato. We stand on the same side of his bed and still don't agree on what we did to get here. Cato nods once, accepting what he can. He turns back to the puzzle with the discipline of a child trying to be easy to save. And Stellan looks at me like the argument is finished because time is still moving. I look at the papers on the marble table, my signature stitched into a lie that traveled faster than my voice. I don't give the room a show. I straighten the waitlist sheet until the corners align. Because warmth is for people who still believe apologies can repair structure. We move fast after that, but the clock stays ahead of us. The hospital corridors swallow us again. Sealed doors, sanitizer stations, beeping scanners. My badge opens what it can open. It can't open time. Stellan walks one step ahead, suit immaculate, watch glinting every time his hand shifts. He doesn't look frantic. He looks efficient. It's the same look he wears when he closes a deal. Cato walks between us, hoodie up, wristband visible. His hand brushes mine once, then lets go, conserving energy like it's currency.
When we reach the intake unit, the coordinator is waiting with her tablet held close to her chest, posture straight, expression careful. Her eyes flick to the wall clock behind us. It's a few minutes after 4. The second hand keeps moving, indifferent. "We're here," Stillon says, already reaching for the counter, already offering the folder, already trying to turn urgency into permission. The coordinator doesn't step back. She doesn't step forward. She stays exactly where policy wants her. "I'm sorry," she says. And the apology is real, which makes the next words worse. "You didn't arrive in time for a required intake." She doesn't accuse us. She just closes the door with one sentence. Stellan's jaw flexes once. "We were in the building." "The clearance sequence is part of intake," she answers, voice steady. "We need labs by the window. We need evaluation within the window. We can't proceed outside it." I watch her eyes as she says it. They're not cold. They're trained. The kind of training that keeps you from drowning in other people's grief. Stellan leans in slightly, lowering his voice the way powerful men do when they believe the world is negotiable. "What can we do?" She looks down at her tablet and scrolls once. A single gesture. Clean. Final. "The slot has been reassigned," she says. "There was another child scheduled behind you." Another child. Another.
Family who arrived on time. Or arrived at all.
I feel my body go still, the way it went still at the school counter. Only this time there's no anger to hold me upright. Just a kind of blank clarity. Stellan's voice tightens. "This is because she insisted on reading—" "No," I cut in. My voice doesn't rise, it drops. "This is because you created chaos and called it love." The coordinator's gaze flicks between us and then away. She won't referee our marriage. She's here to enforce the window. "We can place him on the wait list," she says. "We will call if there is an opening." "If," Stellan repeats, like the word is an insult. The coordinator nods once. "If." Cato shifts beside me. He's listening. He always is. He doesn't ask questions because he's learned questions can make adults fall apart. I crouch slightly so I'm closer to his height. My black blouse pulls tight across my shoulders. My badge swings forward and taps his.
Wristband lightly. Plastic against plastic. Identity against body. Both temporary. Both too real. "Hey," I say to him softly. "We're going to keep going." He nods once, a small adult nod, then looks at the floor. Stellan's hands are clenched at his sides, not shaking, just clenched, as if he's holding himself together by force. For 1 second, I see the helplessness underneath his control. The thing he can't tolerate. The reason he steals consent instead of risking discussion. It complicates my hate without reducing it. Because helplessness doesn't justify erasure. The coordinator turns her tablet and points to a line of text, an entry created, a status changed. Waitlist placement. A new kind of sentence. She prints a sheet and slides it toward us the same way the school slid the consent toward me. Polite paper, official fonts. The sound of it on the counter sharp in the quiet. Stellan stares at it like he can buy it into becoming something else. I stare at it and understand the final cruelty. The system that obeyed him when he used my signature is now refusing both of us without emotion. Our money got us as far as maybe. Then our choices knocked us off it. We walk back through the corridor slower than we came. Cato's small steps drag slightly now. Stellan's suit is still perfect. My ring is still on my finger. Nothing looks ruined. But the day is gone. By the time we reach the elevator, Stellan speaks without looking at me. You don't understand what you caused. I keep my eyes on the closing doors. And you don't understand what you stole, I answer. The elevator descends in silence. And in that silence, one truth settles into my bones. There are betrayals you can't outrun. Not with money, not with speed, not with paperwork. Cato falls asleep in the hospital suite, the way a child falls asleep in cars. Without ceremony, without bargaining, simply because the body runs out of places to hide its exhaustion. He's on the bone-colored sofa, hoodie still up, blanket tucked around his small shoulders. His wristband is the only jewelry he owns, and it keeps catching the lamplight each time his hand shifts in sleep. I sit on the edge of the modern armchair opposite him and watch his chest rise. Up, down. Up, down. It feels like the only honest thing in the room. My matte black blouse is wrinkled now at the elbows. I don't remember when that happened. My hospital badge lies on the coffee table beside the creased consent and the waitlist sheet. 3 pieces of paper that ran my life for 2 days straight. The marble beneath them is spotless, as if money can scrub grief out of the air. Stellan is on the phone in the next room, voice low, asking for times and confirmations. I can hear him through the door, not the words, just that steady cadence that says he's still trying to control the outcome with breath alone. I stand, quietly. My wedding ring flashes once as I pick up the badge lanyard and let it fall back onto the table. Plastic taps marble. The hall outside is colder. At night, the hospital empties out, just vague hiss and the squeak of a nurse's shoes. A small sign points toward a quiet room. The arrow is understated. Even comfort has to be regulated. Inside, the lighting is dim and neutral. A single chair, a small table. No icons demanding belief. Just space designed for people who don't know what to do with their hands. I sit, and my posture finally breaks. Not into hysteria, into something smaller. My shoulders dropping, my jaw unclenching, my breath leaving like it's been held all day. I didn't know who I was talking to. I just needed someone bigger than money to hear me. The sentence doesn't make me feel saved. It makes me feel seen, by myself if nothing else. I look down at my hands in the low light. The ring. The faint indent it's left in my skin. My thumb worries the ring out of habit, then stops. The thought is simple. Stellan didn't forge my signature. He made sure I'd give it away without looking. I sit with that for a minute longer than is comfortable. Then I stand. When I walk back to the suite, I don't feel hopeful. I feel decided. Whatever happens next, waitlist, window, loss, survival, I will not be reduced to a line where someone else needs ink. And when I sit by Cato again, watching his chest rise, I keep my hand open, not clenched around paper, open so he can take it if he wakes. The call comes the next day while I'm rinsing a paper cup in the suite sink, as if cleanliness could be a ritual for control.
My phone buzzes. Unknown hospital extension. Geneva numbers have started to feel like decisions I can't undo. I answer on the first ring. The intake coordinator's voice is measured. Role only, professional, tired in a way kindness often is. There has been a change, she says. An opening. I don't speak. If I do, I'll turn it into hope too early, and I can't afford that kind of superstition. We can evaluate your son, she continues. You have 90 minutes to get here. 90 minutes. Not 30. Not a miracle. Just a narrow corridor of time offered without softness. I look across the suite to where Cato is sitting, hoodie up, trying to eat 2 bites of fruit with careful determination. His wristband is still on. His eyes lift to my face, waiting to tell him what my mouth won't. Stellan is already. Moving, tie in hand, phone in the other, calm tightening into speed again. For a second our eyes meet, and I see the same truth in both of us. We will do anything that doesn't break him. We don't speak about the reason for the opening. Nobody does at first. But the coordinator's phrasing from yesterday returns. Terrible reasons. And now it has a shape. Somewhere, another child got sicker. Another family had to step back. Another mother is staring at a paper she didn't want. That moral cost sits in my throat as we move through the hospital's sealed doors. Badges scanning, hands sanitizing, masks on. At the intake desk, the coordinator sets down the forms again. Same tray, same cheap pen, same fluorescent light making everything look harshly true. This is the consent for evaluation and procedures, she says. Stellan reaches automatically. I place my hand over the paper first. Not possessive, intentional. I read the first paragraph, then the next. My eyes move line by line, and the nurse waits because this time the difference between delay and dignity matters. I sign. My slanted E. My surname. My choice. And I don't pretend it redeems what came before. It simply places my hand back on my child's life where it belongs. Cato squeezes my fingers once as the coordinator takes the form and logs it. He doesn't know the math of wait lists. He knows my hand is warm. He knows I'm here. Stellan stands close, quiet, controlled. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't justify. Not yet. He just watches the door we weren't allowed through yesterday open today. When the coordinator gestures us forward, I feel the strangest kind of gratitude. Sharp-edged, heavy, complicated. The gate is open because somewhere else, it closed on someone else. Months later, Cato's wristband is gone. In its place is a private school sweater again, navy knit, clean collar underneath, the kind of uniform that pretends childhood is simple. He's still smaller than he should be for 11, still careful with his energy, but his eyes hold more light now. He laughs once at breakfast, quietly, like laughter is something you try on after a long time in storage, and I have to turn my face toward the window so he won't see what it costs me to hear it. Stellan stands at the kitchen island, our temporary home in Geneva turned into a routine, checking an email, then checking it again. Even now, after the worst has passed, he speaks in logistics. Appointment reminders, lab schedules, flight windows home. His apology comes out in bullet points. I should have told you sooner, he says one morning, voice low, controlled. I should have. He stops. He doesn't know how to apologize for a method, for a worldview. I set my coffee
down on the stone counter and look at my hands. My wedding ring is still there. A circle that survived everything except trust. Cato's alive, I say. The sentence is true. It's the only truth that feels warm. Stellan's shoulders ease, like he thinks we've reached the part where outcomes erase crimes. I keep going. And I'm grateful you moved fast, I add. I'm grateful you did what you did for him. His eyes lift, hopeful in a cautious, controlled way. Then I place a thin folder on the counter between us. Clean paper, official fonts, the kind of calm that can cut. Inside are custody and medical directives drafted with a patient advocate and a solicitor. Roll-only signatures, clean margins, no seams. My name printed clearly. My authority defined clearly. Not taken, not assumed, not on file without my knowledge. I slide it toward him the way the school slid the consent toward me. This time, the motion belongs to me. Stellan's gaze drops to the top page. A muscle jumps at his cheek, then goes still. "You're leaving," he says. Not a question. I'm separating, I correct, because accuracy matters now. We can co-parent, we can coordinate, we can be in the same rooms for him. I tap the signature line with one finger. But I will not live inside a marriage where my consent is treated as optional. His eyes harden, then soften, then harden again, control trying to reassert itself over a loss it can't negotiate. "You're punishing me," he says quietly. I shake my head once. "I'm protecting myself," I answer. There's a difference. A moral question passes through me, sharp and private. If a child survives because you accepted erasure, do you owe the eraser your silence forever? Cato's footsteps sound in the hallway, soft, quick, and both of us turn our faces into something neutral before he enters. That's what good parents do when the truth is too heavy for a child's shoulders. After he leaves for school, the refrigerator hum is suddenly loud. I twist my wedding ring slowly, feeling the indent it left. And then I slide it off. No dramatic gesture, no speech, just a small circle of metal placed beside the folder, catching morning light like a final punctuation mark. Stallone watches it, as if it's a number on a screen he can't bring back up. I pick up the pen, sign the last directive with my slanted E, and close the folder. My signature is still beautiful. It's just no longer his tool. I keep thinking about that first counter, the way the paper slid toward me like it had rights. In Los Angeles, a notarized consent with my signature made a school treat me like an inconvenience. In Geneva, the same kind of paper decided whether my son was allowed to be seen. And in the months after, I learned the most frightening truth of all. Paper doesn't care what you meant. It cares what it can enforce. Cato is back at school now. He argues about homework like it's a real problem. Sometimes he laughs, then checks our faces, just to make sure he didn't break anything. And sometimes, when I watch him walk through those polished doors, I remember how easily someone else walked him out. Stellan is still in our orbit. He shows up, he pays attention. He loves our son in the only language he's ever trusted: timing, preparation, speed. I don't call him a monster. Monsters don't kneel to tie a child's shoe with gentle hands. But I also don't call him my husband anymore. Because there are betrayals that save a life, and still end a marriage. Here's what I can't stop asking myself. If the outcome is survival, does that excuse the method? Or does survival simply make the method easier to forgive? The first time my signature showed up, it erased me. The last time, it drew a boundary around my child and around me. That's the cost of loving someone powerful. You don't just fight their enemies, you fight their certainty. This is American Billionaire Tales, where fortune meets fate, and where a single signature can be mercy or violence. Give me your verdict. I want to hear it. Was he a father or a thief with a notary stamp? Put it in the comments, and don't disappear.